Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Billy Napier, the Florida Gators, off to a really nice start building this 2025 class out. And this weekend represents a massive opportunity to continue that momentum as they are set to host plenty top targets over the next couple of days. Want to dive in to some of my favorite prospects that are going to be on campus for the Florida Gators. Really excited to get into this one. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys. A massive shout out to the Florida Gator fans, whether we're talking the transfer portal, the high school recruiting trail, the film deep dives, the amount of support the Florida Gator fans continue to show to the boys really does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into this one. And I want to start this conversation out with what Florida has already in this 2025 class. And the thing that stands out to me is that the line of scrimmage, that is a priority for Billy Napier, both on the defensive line and the offensive line. You take a look at what they have already. One, Jalen Wiggins, one of the more talented and dominant defensive linemen in this 2025 class. Peyton Joseph, I think just a blue chipper, right? You talk about Peyton Joseph, you take a look at the film coming from Warner Robins. This is a guy that it's hard to see him not being a very solid starter for the Florida Gators. We broke down that commitment when it happened. And then you go over to Enoch Wangoy, a guy that we talked about a couple weekends ago being kind of a lottery ticket, but a guy that has a ton of upside as an offensive tackle. Now, getting into the visitor list, you kind of continue to see what Billy Napier and this Florida Gators program are really prioritizing. And one of those positions is at the linebacker spot. You take a look back at what they brought in 2024, guys like Aiden Childs, Miles Graham. You take a look at who Florida is really valuing in this 2025 class. It's that linebacker position. Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng from IMG, going to be on campus this weekend, is one of the more exciting linebackers in this 2025 class. Really does remind me of Shamar James coming out of high school, where you may be a little bit undersized at 6'1", 205 pounds. The closing speed that Nathaniel plays with kind of reminds you of Shamar James. We talk about Shamar James, what makes him so special as a linebacker, the ability to operate in space, the ability to go sideline to sideline, hawk down ball carriers. That's what Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng puts onto the film. And I think what even excites you more is he really checks those boxes of what you want in these modern day linebackers. You guys hear me say that term a lot. Really do think it's starting to be extremely important. You look at all the Power 5 programs that are valuing these kind of linebackers that might not be 230 pounds coming out of high school, but are superior athletes. That's really what these college programs are looking for. You ask the question, why is that? A lot of offenses are going to a lot of speed and space. You need your linebackers to be able to go sideline to sideline, to be able to go tackle running backs in the flat, drop back, cover tight ends up the seam. Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng can do all of those things that you're looking for from that linebacker position. And a guy that, really just kind of like Shamar James coming out of high school is always around the football, right? The amount of speed that he has, the amount of ground that he can cover, really special. Guy that can blitz off the edge if you want him to. Really, really high on him. This would be a massive get for the Florida Gators. Next one I want to go to, and this is probably the name that if you're a Florida Gator fan and you're looking for a commitment maybe coming out of this weekend, it would probably be from safety Keon Young from Lakeland, Florida. The thing with Keon Young that I really like when you dive into the film is that safety spot, instincts are so important. We talk about how did Jordan Castell, as a 3-star coming out of high school, get on the football field so early for the Florida Gators and play really well as a true freshman. He knew what he was doing. Like, he understands what's happening in front of him. And as a safety, that is extremely important. And you turn on the film for Keon Young, a guy that had 6 interceptions his junior year, always seems to be in the right place at the right time. And he's at his best playing that deep safety role, keeping his eyes on the quarterbacks, looking at the routes that are developing in front of him, and just making plays on the football. This is a guy that I think could be a game changer at the next level in terms of the amount of big plays he can make, the ball hawking ability that he has. Now, is he as physically as imposing as some other safeties in this class? No, not yet, but he is 6 foot, 170 pounds. You certainly can add some weight onto that frame. I think he's a kind of a lock to be that deep free safety. I don't know if there's the versatility that you have with some of the other safeties in the class, but when you have the ability to get a really good free deep safety, you got to be trying to capitalize on that. Keon Young would be a very exciting get for the Florida Gators. And if he does commit, we'll be talking about it this weekend. Next one I want to go to is on the defensive line, and Floyd Boucard, who is going to be a riser in this 2025 class. You look at 24/7 Sports, the rankings right now, outside of the top 500 nationally. This is a guy that when we come to signing day, very confident will be a solid 4-star prospect coming out of high school. He's transferring into Miami Central, going into his senior year. Take a look at what he did in Mobile, Alabama as a junior. 27 tackles for a loss, 11 sacks. You turn on the film, he is extremely versatile. 6'3", 315 pounds. You see him working as an edge rusher and displaying a ton of juice coming off the edge. Then he kicks inside and is really just too much for interior offensive linemen to handle with the athleticism that he has. This is a guy that plays with violent hands. He's consistently in the backfield. When you start combining the 6'3", 315-pound frame with really, really good athleticism, that's what you're looking at in terms of a very dominant defensive lineman. I am very excited to see what he looks like at Miami Central, kind of taking that step up in terms of high school talent. Last one I want to talk about, another IMG kid who this is another really interesting prospect where I think he's kind of getting slept on in the rankings because he doesn't have the elite track and field times like some other wide receivers in this class. You turn on the film, really good route runner, big frame, and phenomenal body control at the catch point. You see him make some plays, kind of like what Ricky Pearsall was doing for the Florida Gators over the last couple of years, where, again, is he the biggest? No. Is he the fastest? No. But what Ricky Pearsall did so well was run routes, get open, and when it was time to have that body control and make those plays with the football in the air, Ricky Pearsall always seemed to make those plays. I thought he was one of the more underrated wide receivers across the country, and a guy that is certainly not getting underrated in the NFL draft. Donovan Olubode kind of reminds me a little bit of Ricky Pearsall. And again, another really, really talented wide receiver. Florida Gators in 2023 brought in a phenomenal class. Guys like Eugene Wilson, Aiden Mizell, Andy Jean. This is a wide receiver room that is young, but you can tell they're acquiring a lot of talent, and Donovan would be another really good addition to that group. Those are the 4 prospects that I'm really keeping an eye on for the Florida Gators. Have a few other guys that will be trickling in throughout the weekend, but getting in the film on 4 of these guys, really, really impressed. A guy like Keon Young potentially committing in the next 48 hours. If he does, we'll get a film deep dive out for you guys. Appreciate y'all rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.